Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hello, I'm Miles Cottrell, 1/4 of the band Lone Fir Cemetery.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I've never really done like an interview kind of thing before.
Oh, gotcha. Hell yeah. Well, glad to have you on here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that like Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah, I'm Miles, I said that already, but basically, I play guitar and I sing in a band called Lone Fir Cemetery, and we've been going around for 5 years, but gone through a lot of lineup changes, and recently moved to LA for college, so now from a 3-piece we've become a 4-piece, which is very exciting.
Hell yeah. I dig that. And I guess what got you started in music initially?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up around music a lot, not really in the sense that any of my family really, none of my family really played any instruments, but my mom is a big music fan. My dad loves music, but I'd say my mom definitely influenced me a lot with her love of like alternative rock coming from Chicago and listening to like bands like the Smashing Pumpkins and Wilco and growing up with those.
Okay, yeah, you definitely grew up with some quality names in the household then, I could imagine. Yeah. And then let's, we're going to be mainly focusing on you in this interview, but tell us a little bit about the band's backstory. Like, how did that come together?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's kind of my first, like, pretty serious band, I guess. And it started back, like, 5 years ago, when I was a freshman in high school. When I was just getting into high school. And, it started with my friend Luke Maiden, and who's the bassist, and Noah Mortola was the first drummer. He's now in bands like Rhododendron. He's going on tour, national tours. They're awesome.
Hell yeah, no, that's rad.
Yeah.
And then before we get into a little more of what you're doing in the present day, I have a couple of foundation questions I check in with everybody on.
Yeah.
And this first one, it's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
I can think of two. I cannot remember which was the first one, but I know I bought. My guitar teacher was Sonia from the band Alien Boy. Oh, cool. They just opened or not opened, but played the Pabst Festival, which just happened in the Waterfront, which is super cool. But I bought their album, Sleeping Lessons. And that's a great album. And then also, I remember I bought Dear You by Jawbreaker. Another of Sonia. Because we both. I mean, she definitely inspired my love for that band. But they were like my favorite band for middle school and a huge influence for sure.
Oh yeah, I dig that. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to?
Yeah. That's a really hard question because I feel like I've gone like I was going to live shows since I was in my mom's stomach.
Oh,
You
fair.
know?
Yeah, it's been part of the household.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd say like I really got into going to live shows when I was in middle school and in like the Portland DIY scene. That was like the youth DIY scene was like very small. The one that I was in, kind of based out of School of Rock in Portland, because a lot of the kids kind of went there and met there and started there. And so like bands like Growing Pains, there's this band called Plastic Brains that doesn't exist anymore, but I think that those shows were really what invigorated like my love and passion for like the community of DIY rock music.
Oh yeah, I dig that. And then before we officially get into the here and now, do you have a defining moment where you like decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
I mean, that's a hard question.
Yeah, because you've kind of been in it and pretty about it since the beginning. So I imagine that line might be a little blurred.
I mean, like I've always kind of been drawn to it, but it was like doing School of Rock. You know, like I started guitar lessons pretty early on, because my mom was just kind of like, you have to take one like instrument lesson, you know, pick one. And I was like, oh, guitar looks cool, I'll do that. And I hated it forever, you know. It was like a chore. But then once I did School of Rock, it gave like meaning to that, kind of, where it was like, well, now I can play cool songs with cool people, and I looked up to all the older kids there. And then like once I started my own band, it was very much a passion project, and then once I moved to LA, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I wanted to go to like a liberal arts college, so I have the option of music. So I go to Occidental, and then that was kind of when it clicked, like, well, I want to do this for the rest of my life, and I can't do anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds like a pretty solid, like, concept of definition. So I dig that. And now let's go ahead and let's get on into you in the present day.
Yeah.
We're going to get a super easy one out of the way first. How'd y'all pick the name?
Yeah, so my high school, I went to Central Catholic, and the cemetery across the street is called Lone Fir Cemetery. I actually picked that band name before I even went to the high school, like the summer going into it. But I just thought it was really cool. I read the Wikipedia page. There's some interesting lore about it. So that's how I picked it.
Okay, hey, I mean, it's a good name. It's easy to spell. It's easy to remember. It's different, you know what I mean? Like, when you hear it, you're like, okay, that's going to be there forever. Yeah. It did teach me that I did not know how to spell cemetery correctly, but now I do, man. So I appreciate that.
We were going to play a show at Kelly's Olympian, and like there was a picture of the kind of sign outside, and they spelled our name wrong. It's a common misspelling.
Like I said, I think I always feel like there's an A, that third E. Yeah, like that's what, like, that's how I always think it's cemetery, but it's cemetery. Yeah. So, but you know, hey, either way, it's still a cool name, and I dig it.
Thank you.
And then let's talk about the writing process. I guess we can, you could talk about either your own or like how you do it with the band. Like, just how do you go about getting a track started?
Yeah, so every song that has come out, and every song, I mean, just how the dynamic has been in the band has been me writing all the songs, usually on acoustic guitar, and then I like make demos in my bedroom or my dorm room, or like I show my band in practice, and then we kind of write all of their parts together. And yeah, I mean, that's how it's
okay. Yeah, so then I guess it is your process and their process all one and the same.
Yeah.
And then I guess just for clarity, is any of the band up here? Is all of the band down there now?
I mean, they're all over the place. So Lucas, the bassist now, lives in New York.
Okay.
Zach, our new guitarist, who's a baritone guitarist,
interesting,
down in Berkeley, and our drummer, Liam, is up in Seattle. So
Gotcha. Oh, yeah. So like
kind of a mess of things.
one of you needs to get to Florida so that you have all four corners covered.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
But that's cool. And I guess so. You do a lot of like writing and the like rehearsing and stuff digitally, or do you like meet up at certain points in the year?
Yeah, I mean, we all met in college this iteration in LA. So we're together all school year, and that's mainly when things happen. We went on our first tour, which was just right after the school year, like a few months ago. And so, like, we just try to come together sometimes when we're not at school, but generally it's a break time and time for me to write new material and then bring it to them.
Gotcha. Okay, I dig that. And then I guess that kind of explains, because we're gonna move on to more of the music for a moment. Usually I have a couple more questions, but I kind of want to dive into this now because I was checking out your stuff on Spotify, and your music goes back to 2020, but it's like there's clearly a design in it. And I was checking out your sound. It's super comfortable. Like I kind of grew up in that same vein of music, so it felt like really familiar. It, like I was even in a band that kind of had an adjacent sound. Shout out Alert the Armory. But I want to cut this part short because I really want to talk about the album.
Oh, yeah.
Which is called Meet Your Antagonist. It came out July of last year. And first of all, it's a huge album. It's enormous, and it's super raw sounding, very high energy, and a really interesting format. I love that you broke it up into 4 chapters, essentially, and gave it kind of there. And not only did you give it that, but you you spoke about each of those parts at the beginning of the portion. And I have so many words to say about it, but I do want to know first, what was the inspiration for that design?
Oh, man. I mean, so biggest inspiration was Andy Schauf, who he made one of my favorite albums, The Bearer of Bad News, where it is a story-based album, but not linear. So, like, you hear all these cool characters and all of these, like, fun stories, but then they kind of, like, come together throughout the album. And I was feeling really inspired by that, but I wanted to make something kind of more linear and more, like, if I wrote, like, how can I put kind of a movie or book format into an album without just straight up saying, like, oh, this character did this, then they did this, then they did this, but kind of more through emotions.
Damn. Yeah. Well, you definitely nailed it. Because, like, I was checking, I mean, like, it starts off so strong. Like, literally the first song, the Myth of Sisyphus.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Like, the bass line was stellar. The chorus was super melodic, and for being like a 6-minute song, it just never loses the listening attention. Even during that like screaming breakdown right before like the actual ending, just truly a magnificent arrangement all the way around. And I would love to go track by track and like even go into Alexander Part 1 and 2 and go from there, but I don't want to make this a tuned in episode, or we'll be here for many hours. But just as a whole, the album was so exciting. It's got rises and falls. It has a story, but like where it stands out to me most, like the thing that I think really is the emotional depth. There's just this like very like hard on your sleeve feel, but at the same time, it feels like intentional and provocative. It's a really it's such a cool album that I do this bit where I pick out a personal track that I like.
Yeah.
And I almost couldn't do it.
Oh, man.
I was having such a hard time, but I went with Hall.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I just, like, I've gone so long already. I don't want to keep just talking all over your interview, but just to summarize it, I picked it because there's this energy in it. Like, just from start to finish, the instrumentation was wild. The vocals were, like, haunting. And even that late in the album, it just brings this presence and this bigness that just keeps you locked in all the way till the very end. So that was definitely one of my favorite tracks.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'll also shout out so the second bassist in my band, Olive, who has like a local legend now in my mind. She's in like bands like Mauve. Their last show is actually this Friday, which I'm going to, and I'm definitely gonna cry at. And then other bands like Simpleton. But yeah, I just wanted to shout that out. But I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody, if for some reason you haven't listened to it yet and you're watching this episode, pause it here, go listen to it, come back in an hour and 5 minutes and pick it up where you left off. But I'm curious to know, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, it's funny because a lot of, I mean, this album's so long that I kind of made a set list and just stuck to it. So we play like a very small amount. That's those songs. I feel like when we actually
it'd be
play
hard
live.
to play the full thing. It's literally an hour long.
But man, I really like to play Recreational Hope. I mean, that's kind of like, I feel like that's the best song on the album to me.
That was almost the one I picked. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, there's got to be more later. But
It's very hooky.
Yeah.
That one's always fun, and that's always the one people usually know the lyrics to. So especially when it gets quiet at the end, and like hearing people sing along is just like the most explosive feeling in the world. So I'd say Recreational Hope.
oh man, I could only imagine. And yeah, like I said, that was this close to being the one that I picked. So I could definitely take that for sure. And then I guess let's talk about new music you're working on. I'm curious to know, what are some of the things that, like, how would you describe the new music? Like, what can we look forward to? How is it different or the same, or what do you got cooking?
Oh man, so I'm like addicted to songwriting. Like it's really tough because I write so many songs, and then I mean that's why the album is so long. I mean a big reason is because I wrote so many songs, but then they're all my babies and I can't cut any of them.
I gotcha.
So I mean, I have the next 2 albums written already.
Oh, damn.
We started recording the next album like a few weeks ago. We got all the guitar tracked. I'm doing vocals this Friday. And then because we all live apart, weirdly, we're doing like rhythm section last, which is how we did the last album too, which is strange. But yeah, so we're getting that done here, and then the rest done in LA. And that album is like kind of similar to the last in the sense that it's kind of continuing the same story, kind of wrapping it up, and but in a shorter format, because I feel like the last album was just like hard to digest or hard to approach when it's so long. So this will only be like a 2-chapter kind of thing.
Okay. See, now I am an album person. So like for me, I was like, I enjoyed it. Like being able to like take the time to like ingest the experience, especially with the way that you broke it up. Like I know I just said a million things about it, but coming back to that, just the fact that there's those bits at the beginning of each chapter made it feel almost like what, like, you know, like the beginning of a part in an audiobook would be. So it's like you kind of have that turn the page, but like it kind of gives you a thing to expect. It kind of prepares you for it, and like and it's just such an interesting experience, I guess, because I don't experience that a lot in music, especially nowadays, where like the concept of an album is a little bit, you know, a little bit remiss at the moment. But I could definitely understand why breaking it up into 2 parts would be more digestible to the average listener. But I really like the concept in general, so I'm glad to see that you're going to keep that going. But now let's take a moment and let's step back. Let's look kind of at music as a whole. What are some of the things about either new music in general or just new music to you that you enjoy and you're finding inspiration from?
Oh man, there's so many good bands out there right now, and
oh, you're telling me.
I mean, I'm always so inspired by like local bands that I see and play with all the time. Like, I mean, Mauve is Olive, my old bassist's band. Their album was super inspiring to me, and it's cool because we kind of like inspire each other a lot of the times, and I think like that feedback loop of creativity is like so divine, you know.
Yeah.
And then this new band Frico that my mom actually told me about from Chicago, they've been like my favorite band since I've heard them. They're getting pretty big right now, going on their first like super big tours. It's just like, it's kind of like I find the same thing in them that I look for when I write music, when it's just like so raw in emotion and like it makes you feel something, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are two examples.
Oh yeah, I dig that. And I guess, this isn't a question I normally ask, but I'm curious, what are some of the bands that you've like found inspiration from?
Yeah, I mean, from our old music, like that last album, well, I can take it from each release. The EP was mainly from like emo bands, like 90s emo bands. I was in middle school when I wrote all the songs on the EP. And then the first album was I wrote that mainly in freshman and sophomore year of high school. And so it was kind of my high school project, and then COVID delayed recording it forever. And that was definitely Smashing Pumpkins, which is kind of like the roots of my love for alternative music from my mom. But then also, like, there's so many songs, like, it kind of encapsulates, like, a whole period of, like, my listening. Like, there's even some J-pop influence in some of, like, the Third Chapter songs. And for the new album, I don't really know, because I stopped listening to music for a while, and then I kind of got in a feedback loop of, my own songs. So, like I didn't learn any covers for years, or I just didn't find enjoyment in it. So the next album it feels like kind of a feedback loop of my own stuff, but of course there's so many influences that are coming in that I'm not even, recognizing. And then the album after that is which is a lot of music, but the album after that is definitely more inspired by taking things from like jazz and classical music and putting that into a sound that sounds like us in a way, which is weird. It's going to sound very different than anything we've done, but I'm very excited for that too.
Hell yeah. No, I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And then before we move on to the next portion, this next question is probably the densest one in the interview. But, we've talked a lot about your experiences, the actions, the reactions, but when it's just you and music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like music is kind of like everything. It's like become my entire life. It's become everything I think about, a lot of the times to like the detriment of, I don't know, relationships, I guess, like friendships and stuff. Like all I want to do is write music, and all I want to do is like and improve my art. I mean, very similar to like you, with like the kind of with the podcast you're doing and how much you're putting into that. And I've recently just been putting more and more hours into music, trying to get one Instagram reel a day at least, which is a funny thing that I never thought I'd be doing ever, but here we are. So
no, I got you.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not something I talk a lot about in any episode, just 'cause it's not my episode. But as somebody who does dedicate so much of their time, it's one of those things where it's like, as long as you're finding the reward in it, like, yes, social interactions will suffer to a degree, but it's only because it's really an outside perception. You know what I mean? Like, people are thinking, why aren't you doing these things that pertain to the day to day? Like I don't have any streaming services. Like that is the level that I got to on this. But I don't miss any of that. You know what I mean? Like I still talk to the people I care about. I still like go and do something once in a while. But like I find so much fulfillment in the ability to create something that I think is worthwhile to me, but something I think people perceive as worthwhile as well. So it's like finding that space is such a hard little like notch to like land into, that once you do, live in it. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody gets out of this alive. So like being able to look back and being like, I did the thing that truly brought me joy for as long as humanly possible and as much as humanly possible, there's nothing wrong with it. You're doing the right thing. And it really does. It shows in your music. I think that there is a level of care that is just so obviously present in it. And, you have a full band of people who support what you're doing and want to make it their own as well. So I think you're doing great, and you're definitely on the right track. So please keep doing it.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's an addiction, and it's my life, and I'm really happy to have the opportunity to kind of pursue that. Also, this is kind of off topic, but I noticed you have like a lot of Murakami books, and I love Murakami. Kind of funny author, because I feel like you either hate him or you love him.
Yeah, he is definitely a very divisive author, depending on how you approach his writing.
Yeah,
no, very much so. I think.
Oh my God, just the way. Sorry, this is so off topic, but the way that his writing brings you into other worlds.
Yes, his imagery is really like what stands out the best. Like I usually when I'm reading, it's like I will lose the book right away if I can't like see like the picture it's trying to paint. And every single one of his books, I can tell you what the characters look like. Like he doesn't really describe them in that way. Like he leaves it so like open to interpretation, but he paints everything around the space so vividly that by the time you like realize that you're just reading it, you feel like you've seen all of it.
Yeah, it's so like trance-like and so beautiful. But like another coincidence about it, like on this next album, I actually have some songs that are inspired by Murakami books. Kind of, I don't know, like I was reading a lot of Murakami while I was writing this album, which I all wrote the first semester of college. I just wrote all these songs, and I found a lot of inspiration in kind of that whimsical nature of his writing for songs.
Oh yeah, well now I'm looking forward to it even more.
Yeah.
But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to this next portion, which is all hypothetical questions. And usually these are geared towards like the individual person, but I'm going to try and sprinkle in a mixture of like the band ones and the person ones. But this first one, we're going to stick to individual, and it is pretty straightforward. But if you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Yeah. I mean, it's been kind of like a running joke kind of thing. For the past few years, that I would love to work with Doja Cat.
Okay, hell yeah.
Make something really weird, really unlike anything we've ever made. Or like Rosalia. Two pop stars and two people that I feel like would create something interesting and new. But yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I dig that. And then this is usually where I would ask like who you want to work with locally, but I want to twist this question a little bit.
Yeah.
Who is a local act that you haven't gotten to perform with that you think the band would rock with really well?
Oh, there's a lot of really cool artists that I haven't had the chance to play with. I mean, Kill Michael has been around for a while, and I've always wanted to play a show with them because like I always went to shows, their shows, and felt very inspired. And I mean, yeah, I'd say Kill Michael is definitely number one. Also Twister, they're another band kind of similar in sound to us, that we haven't had the opportunity to play with, but I really love their sound and what they're doing.
Oh yeah. And then I guess we're going to take the same question, but we're going to broaden it a little bit.
Yeah.
If you could share the bill with any two other bands, they just have to be currently playing, but any bands, who would you want those two to be?
I'd say Freako, because they're the current band that I'm obsessed with. And maybe Car Seat Headrest.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Huge inspiration.
Yep.
I can't believe I haven't mentioned them yet, but...
I can't believe I didn't think of them when I was listening to your music. That makes so much sense.
Oh, yeah. Like, some of the songs felt like I was trying to, like, rip off a Car Seat Headrest song, definitely. Especially with... They have That Way, and Freako also does this, which is another reason I love them, where they kind of repeat a phrase over and over again at the end of a song, which is just a very powerful way to end a song, I feel like. And then also, even with structure, like the song Beach Life and Death and Bodies, like I was inspired by those two songs for like the one where the antagonist falls in love, that song for sure, trying to bring things from like earlier in the track and throw them in at the end of the track as kind of like a nice little bow box and gift.
Yeah, no, I dig that for sure.
Yeah.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal. Or I may not have said that at the beginning of this one because I got so into it. But sky's the limits of this one. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
This is kind of a strange answer because it's in Portland.
Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, it's a low bar, but Mission Theater, man, I've gone to so many awesome shows there, seen my friends, and bands, and we've never had the opportunity to play there because, I mean, I don't think we're big enough to fill out a bill if it's like just us headlining, but that was kind of my goal when I was living in Portland. Never accomplished it, but I definitely will someday.
Hey, no, and you know, I think a lot of people don't give credit to like the spaces that they like acknowledged. Like I was really lucky to be able to play a show at Slim's in San Francisco when I was younger, and like we actually went there twice. Once was a battle of the bands, so I don't count it.
Yeah,
but like we were actually able to play like second of three for like two other really big bands that we should not have had bookending us. But like when you get to play in those spaces that like you got to see so much music, and it really does make a difference, and it like you feel like you're there, you know what I mean? Like you can imagine what people are seeing of you, and that's really special.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
I mean, I'll probably say Car Seat Headrest again because I mean they haven't put out like their own album in a while. They did that that thing where the cover kind of album, but I would love to see more of their music and see with all this time that has passed, how their or Will Toledo's songwriting has progressed.
Yeah, hell yeah, no, I dig that for sure. All right, and with that being said, let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and February?
January, February. Wait, what is it now?
We're in July at the moment still, technically.
Okay.
By the time it comes out, it'll still be July. So July.
Okay, perfect. Well,
wait, no, I lied. We just entered August by the time. It's been August the whole time you've been watching this, everybody.
Oh, yeah, August. Do you know what date, like, for shows? Like, do you know what date this might come out?
I don't offhand. I apologize.
Okay. Well, if it's before this time, August 10th, we're playing a festival, a free all-day festival in Hillsboro, Oregon. That's actually, we're playing on, like, the wing of an airplane, which...
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know the name of the place, and I can't think of the name of it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that will be awesome. It's free. You can camp and stuff. Other than that, we're working on our next album. It's, I mean, I think it sounds the same, but everyone else that has heard it so far thinks it sounds way different. So that will be coming out in the next year or so, and yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to that.
Sweet.
And for this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah. So you can find us on Instagram at lfc.band, Spotify, all the streaming platforms, whichever one you may use. It's Lone Fir Cemetery, LONEFIRCEMETERY. And yes.
Hell yeah.
Oh, TikTok too, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what our handle is, but you can find it.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, shout out to my family for being incredibly supportive of my music journey. Shout out to my 3 other band members. I wish they could be here right now, but they are across the USA. And shout out to I got a Red Pine shirt on. Amazing local band.
Oh hell yeah.
I'm playing a show with them this weekend, just a solo set, and I'm sure I'm missing a ton that I'll come to regret, but those are what I got right now.
No, totally.
All right, and with that being said, we've got one last question to go.
Yeah.
Before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Perfect.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one you think everybody should know.
I think I'm going to have to go with Mauve's album about the weather. And it's like, I think it's my favorite album to ever come out of the PDX DIY scene.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out. But with that being said, we're going to go and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been super fun.
Hell yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Miles.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.